right. Hey, everybody. How is it going tonight? So, can everybody hear me okay? Hey, Justin. How's it going? Merry Christmas, David. So we have a little bit of a surprise tonight. I'm going to be tying these flies up instead of Brian. We had a little bit of a hold on. This is our first time using our Zoom account, so bear with me. All right. Okay, I think I've got it. It's a little different using our Zoom account to stream with this, so bear with me. All right. Thanks. Yes, wrong vice, right? I'm on the red Nor-vise. My purple one is next to me, but it was kind of a last minute switch, so I already had this one set up, so we are going to just roll with it, even though it pains me to tie on the red one and not my purple one. So it is what it is, but it's really pretty too. So, all right. So it looks like we've got 52 people on. So let's get started. Just a reminder, I'm filling in. So today was my day off. So hat hair day, it's hat day when I have a day off. So today I wasn't going anywhere, so it's headband day. So that's what you get when it's last minute. But the headband is awesome. I just got it in the mail. It's by a company named Real Threads. So check them out. If you go over to the Miss Mayfly page, they've got a bunch of different styles to choose from. So we're just rolling with it today. And I kind of ran through these guys last minute, so keep that in mind. All right, let's get going. Just a reminder, every 50 shares we get, Norvise will be giving away a neck gaiter and stripping guards. So be sure to share to your page. Tonight, I am going to be tying 4 flies. These are flies that Brian picked out, so they're not steelhead flies like I normally do. One is a sunken stone, a bird of prey, a rabbit fly, and a wood duck heron. And again, I just blew through these this morning, so bear with me on them. Let's switch my cameras up. Right, there we go. Dave, my purple vise is next door to me on the other tying bench. It's just weird even sitting on this side of the tying room. So anyways, okay, so the very first fly we're going to be tying tonight it's called a Sunken Stone. And just to give you an idea, it's a dry fly pattern. So can everybody see that okay? Is it in focus enough? Tried my best. The lighting on this side of the room is actually a little bit different, so I'm not used to it. So this is a Sunken Stone. It's a dry fly pattern. We use it here to represent, you can use it as a stonefly, a hopper. In the fall, you can tie it in orange and use it as an October caddis. It's just a really versatile fly. Hey, Mike. Hey, Kevin. Again, very versatile fly. Floats really well, so you can fish it through the fast pocket water, which is personally one of my favorites. Oh, hey, Robert. That's awesome. Your little girls are watching. Is it CG and Avery? Shout out to both of you. That's great. Hopefully they're on a vise and tying, or will be soon. All right, so to start with, we are using it is a Firehole 811, which is a 3X streamer hook. You can also tie it on a 4X. We just honestly didn't have any 4X, and I really don't like a longer hook shank like that. the leverage on the fish is just a little bit not in the fisherman's favor, so I really prefer a 3X. All right, so we are going to get started. Normally you would use a thread to match whatever color you're tying. For demo purposes, I'm using red thread just because it shows up better on the video. So we're going to get started by just stressing our hook shank. And now for the tail, which is actually a shuck, but we'll tie it in just like a tail. So we're just using some Z yarn in a dark brown color. Any material similar to that will work just fine. There's plenty of different substitutes available. So I'm not going to worry about how long it is because we can trim it once we have it tied in. Actually, let me grab a hair clip real quick. Again, this isn't my tying area. It's actually, mine is on the other side of the room. So, I'll just go grab one. All right, there we go. So I'm just going to clip that down for now. And I'm just going to go ahead and trim that front section off. So this is going to be our shuck on the fly. And so I like to trim it. So if you look on this side of the vise, you have the little wheel there. I like to trim it and use that as a guide. So I just trim it right to the back of that. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to dub the fly. Tonight I'm going to be using some orange Spirit River fly and dye. So it's just a light orange. It shows up pretty good on the camera, and it's also good for us to use in October. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just throw a half hitch in there to save my work. Where's the socks? They're in the dirty clothes because they need washed. Oh, hey Graham, how's it going? How's it going over in Scotland? One of the things I think is so neat about this is seeing where everybody's from. So it's kind of cool. So drop a line where you're from. I live in Idaho, if anybody's wondering. So I grew up in Michigan. Now I live in Idaho for the last 12 years now. All right, so to dub, I've picked the dubbing out a little bit. And by doing that, it allows it to jump onto the thread a little bit easier. So I'm just gonna start that. Again, bear with me. These were flies Brian picked out, not me. They're really good flies though. I just haven't tied them in a while. So I'm going to go ahead and just tighten that up a little bit. And we're going to dub all the way back to that tie-in point. So this fly is pretty repetitive as far as tying it goes. We'll dub, then tie in some deer hair, and just kind of repeat that the whole way up. Some people also call this fly a hedgehog. They're very similar. I believe the Sunken Stone was a Nick Nicholas pattern from the West Yellowstone area. Yes, Dave, I agree. It was the best move we ever made. I love a few things about Michigan, but gosh, I sure love Idaho. All right, so now I've just got a clump of deer hair. You want something that would be similar to what you might use for stimulator. Yes, not used to this tying bench, that's for sure. Everything's kind of in a different spot. All right, so I just snipped a nice little bit out. I'm gonna go ahead and clean that out. White Horse Yukon, oh goodness, nice. Yeah, woohoo, look at that dubbing fly on the thread. I will say the Nature's, no, Spirit River Fine and Dry is super nice to dub with, the Nor-vise style. I don't usually have real good luck dubbing that way because I'm just not that good at it. So we may have picked that dubbing specifically because it's very easy to do. All right, so I've just put the hair in my hair stacker and tamp it down. All right, so we just want those tips to be about even with the tail. So I'm going to take a quick measurement. I'm going to go ahead and just clip those butt sections out. And we're going to do 3 loose wraps and then pull down. And I want this material to stay right on top of that hook shank. Best we can. We can always trim some of the fibers out if we need to at the end. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and throw a half hitch in. I did stack the hair, Justin. Did you not? Yeah, I did stack it. You don't have to. I mean, I don't think the fish really care one way or another if you stack it, but I did. It was just off camera. All right, so, oh, I already put a half hitch in, but we'll go ahead and do another one. So I was teaching Mike Harlow today a little bit about the Norvise. He just bought a purple one. And yeah, Mike bought a purple Norvise. And so he stopped over a little bit earlier today just to learn some basics on it. So I spent some of my day teaching Harlow the basics. So we're just gonna do a little bit more dubbing. We'll need probably just a little bit more on that. Yes, Dave, burnt orange makes a great salmon fly stone, and it also makes a great October caddis pattern. So we're very fortunate here in Lewiston and in the Idaho mountains. We have a good population of October caddis in the fall, which they're just massive caddis. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. All right, so we've dubbed that. We've kind of covered that bottom side up. And now we're going to just tie in another clump of hair. The hardest part on this one is really just making sure that you've got the spacing of the clumps down. Generally, you're going to have, 3 to 4 clumps, just depending on the hook shank. If you use a 4X hook shank, you're going to need more clumps of hair. That goes without saying, but all right. So I cleaned the fuzz out of that hair clump. Now, Justin, if you take a look, I'm putting it in my hair stacker. You're welcome, Mike. You'll come over again later and we'll teach you some more. I'm gonna go ahead and grab that out. I can already tell there's one in there that's just one that I just don't like the looks of it. So I'm gonna pull those out. I'm a little OCD when it comes to that. Okay, so now we want this clump to be just about in line with the last one. So we'll take a measurement, switch hands, and then trim those butt sections off. Oh, you can see now, that's great. Right. So I'm gonna do 3 loose wraps and then pull down. And we're gonna keep our pinch here pretty tight, that way it's not rotating. And then just wrap your thread through those butt sections. Okay. So get the second clump in. Just wrap forward. Gonna put another half hitch in. Like I was telling Mike Harlow today, when you're tying on any rotary vise, you're going to be doing a lot of half hitches. So you best just get used to it. Yep, as just a reminder, Norvise just put up there for every 50 shares, we'll pick a winner for a Norvise net gator and a pair of stripping guards. I just got a net gator in the mail the other day, and they're really nice, especially with all the mask mandates and whatnot that we have going on lately. I'm going to go ahead and put some more dubbing on there. You better get the Hoover out, the vacuum. Yeah, right? Great thing is we have a whole room that is just for fly tying, and we'll be teaching classes in it. And it's got a cement floor because it used to be the garage. And so it just doesn't even matter if there's fly tying materials all over it, which is a good thing because there always is. But then we track them into the house. So, all right. So now we're just going to repeat it again. I'm going to take it one more clump. Right, this one will end up with 4 clumps total. So go a clump of hair. Again, I'm just going to pull that fluff out of it. Use a comb. Go on. Put it in the hair stacker. And tamp that down. I don't know, this red vise. I like my purple, but I'm kind of digging tying on the red. It matches the thread I'm using. Like I said, I'm using red thread today. I wouldn't normally use that, but it just shows up better on the videos. So I'm using Semperfli A-Dot plastic wax. So go ahead and take another measurement. Cut those butt sections off. Do a few soft wraps and then pull straight down while we're maintaining a good pinch. And then just wrap through those butt sections. I'm looking good. So we'll go ahead and put another half hitch in just to save our work, and we're going to be dubbing another little bit. So this fly is just super repetitive, but it is a great fly to fish here in Idaho. It's really versatile depending on the colors and size you tie it in. You can tie it in pretty much any color you want. Probably could even tie it in purple if Brandon Moon is on here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pinch this and just tighten that dubbing up a little bit. Because of the deer hair, sometimes it's easier rather than using the rotary aspect to get that first wrap or two just using the regular technique. Oh, I just missed a comment. If I miss any comments, I'll go back through after we're done today and answer them. Why did I use a hook with a straight eye, not that one that has an eye up or eye down? Honestly, this is what I had handy. It's entirely personal preference. So I know there's various reasonings behind it. Of those, I'm not entirely sure at the moment, but this one has a straight eye. It was handy, so that's what we're using. Again, Brian was supposed to be tying tonight. He probably knows why. And this actually probably isn't the hook he was going to be using. He was going to use a 4X, but I just didn't want to use a 4X long hook. It is a size 6 hook. Yeah, Brian's going to owe me after this, by the way. I see a new rod in my future. So I've just cut off another clump of deer hair, going ahead and cleaning it out. Yep, a baby hedgehog. That's kind of exactly what it is. There's a lot, some people call it a hedgehog, sunken stone. There's a few slight differences, but the concept is really similar. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in my hair stacker again. Like I said, just a super repetitive fly, but it fishes really well in pocket water, which is one of my favorite spots to fish. So, all right, so we're gonna take measurement, switch hands again, cut those butt sections out, get them all over the place. And then I'm just going to do this much like elk hair caddis and just leave those up front. I actually should have waited to cut those off until I was done tying it in, but again, so you can either dub the head or you can leave it more like an elk hair caddis look to it. It is entirely up to you. I made a mess of that. I'll just leave it spiky like that. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a whip finish on. If you do it this way, I would suggest leaving the tips a little bit longer and then trimming them at the end, but in my haste, I did not do that. Cut our thread, put it on our thread post while we're switching flies out. And there we have it. If you have any hairs that have kind of gone to that far side, on the underside of the hook, you can certainly just use your scissors and trim them out. In a perfect world, none would go over there, but they do. All right, got that. And so that is, again, it's called a sunken stone dry fly. You can tie any colors you want, various sizes, big, small, whatever you'd like. All right, the next fly we're going to tie is a bird of prey. For this, I'm going to be using a curved shank. So I'm going to switch out the jaws to the fine point jaws. Ben Cleveland, Team Canada is playing. Sorry I can't tune in. Oh, I'm crushed. I'll keep that in mind if you do one, you know. All right, so for this, we are using a Bariki 135 size 10 in a scud pupa hook. Let me reposition the camera a little bit. These jaws are a little bit longer. Yeah, right, Team Canada. What sport is that? I don't even know. I got enough Canadian people on here. I should know, but I don't. So we're going to be tying into the bend of this. So I've oriented the hook just a little bit down in the vise so that I can access that curve of the hook. Again, we're using red thread, just so it's easier to show up. You would generally use whatever color would match the fly you're tying, but luckily our cutthroat here tend to like red anyway, so it is never a bad thing. So the bird of prey is a merger pattern, and I believe it's a John Anderson pattern. I'm reading Brian's notes here on it. I should have done my homework a little bit better had I known I was going to be tying tonight. A little hard sometimes on these curved hooks to use the rotary, just because the hook it's curved and then it's also curved kind of the other way. So I'm just going to wrap it normal as far as that goes. Let's see, next up, we're going to be using, so I've got a nice, a really nice Hungarian partridge skin. I do believe I'm the first person using feathers off of this, so that kind of sucks for Brian. Hockey, of course. Okay, that makes sense. So for the tail, I've picked out one of these brown feathers with the white in it. And then for the collar, we're going to use one of these. That's a more traditional wet fly collar. Hey Mo, how's it going? Sorry, the camera's focused on the fly, so I just noticed the lag caught up and the feather was very out of focus as I was showing that. So the downfall of having a autofocus on the fly. All right, so for this, I'm just gonna pull all the fuzz off of it. And then if we bring those feathers back, we're just gonna cut that V out of the middle. Like so. So then you're left with kind of a V shape. So we'll just go ahead and tie this in there at the very back of the hook. Doesn't need to be, terribly long. Trim that butt section off. Okay. So next up, we will be tying in a rib, which is just a real thin piece of pearl, mylar, or crystal flash. So when you purchase a Nor-vise, the standard jaws come with it, and then you can purchase the additional jaws, the fine point. Oh, there's Nor-vise replying. That's awesome. Thank you guys. Sometimes it's hard to keep up on all those comments. I'm going to go ahead and just lash that in good. And I'm going to hold that back with my handy dandy hair clip. So for dubbing on this fly, you can use anything that's kind of spiky. You want it to be buggy. So for that, I'm actually using a special dubbing that someone that lives close by makes. It's called Mo Dub. Thanks. So yeah, it's Mo Dub. No idea what goes in it, but it's very buggy, very spiky. You could use squirrel, rabbit, anything that's got some spikes to it. Now I'm going to say right now, I will try to dub it this way, but it is probably, it's a natural material and I struggle with some of those. So I'm going to try to do it the Norvise way, but nobody laugh if I don't. I'm going to actually just touch it with a little bit of dubbing wax, just to hopefully give me a fighting chance, because I'm just not as good as Tim. Oh good, my cookies showed up in Delaware. Probably took the postal service 3 weeks to get them there, and hopefully they weren't crushed. But all right, so I've kind of picked that dubbing out a bit. I'm gonna go ahead. Oh yeah, look at that. By golly, I think we've got it. Can we get M&M cookies with orders as a promo? I did make a batch today. Ask Mike Harlow. He was here and picked up a big bag of them for him and his mom. That might be a good promo deal. I hear they're pretty good cookies. All right, so we got that. I'm gonna tighten it up just a little bit by pinching. Let's see if you can see it. By pinching the thread and spinning it, that just tightens it up a bit. So I'm gonna take this all the way to the rear. Be careful of that hook point as you spin. Now you want this fly to be buggy. It is an emerger, so keep that in mind. We're just going to take this dubbing all the way up to that bead. And the bead is just a black bead. It's nothing special. It's not tungsten. You could. Yeah, if you buy a full setup, Tim says he'll make sure you get cookies, and I will make sure you get cookies. I'll be a cooking fool if you buy a full set. So we will make good on that. Well, Dave, maybe you just need to come down to Lewiston. With the Rona, nobody's coming down here for shows or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a half hitch in there. Now we're just going to rib this using that mylar. I'm just going to counter wrap that a little bit. And this just gives it a little bit of segmentation. And it gives it just a little bit of shine. Oh, and there, look, I broke it. It didn't unwind, so good. Just rescue that. After all, we got it. All right. So I'm going to make a nice little flat base here because we're going to put our collar and then a piece of peacock herl in front of it. So for the collar, I've just got one of those Hungarian partridge feathers. They're the lighter gray ones. And go ahead and get the fluff off of it. Then I'm going to tie it in by the tip. So I want to just preen those feathers back. And then cut off so there's just a little triangle so you have a nice tie-in point. And then we'll just tie that into that flat area that we made. Let me grab a pair of half pliers real quick because I did not grab any from my desk. I'm gonna just throw a half hitch in there and take my thread over to my bobbin post. Travis, the button on it looks different. Are you talking about the button on the bobbin, this button? If so, that's just a thread keeper. Mike Johnson over in the UK makes them, and they just, you order from them and they just glue on. If that's not what you're talking about, I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm just pulling those fibers through my fingers. And I'm gonna just take, you really only need a wrap and a half. One, maybe 1.5. People have a tendency to really overdo it on these. It's just to give the illusion of legs. And it also helps trap air bubbles. Okay, yep, Mickey's right. It is a custom thread keeper. And you can find Mike Johnson in the Nor-vise Tires group on Facebook. And he sells them, he makes them over in the UK. And it's just a thread keeper, so you don't have to have a cap on it. No, Nor-vise doesn't make that. Right, so for the collar, we are using peacock. And now I've taken this, or I should say Brian has taken this, not me, I didn't prep for this. And it's the bit right below the eye. The fibers tend to be a little bit fuller and just a little bit nicer than the kind you get in the strung packages in the bag. So I'm just going to pull one of these off. And for this, we're only using one. And everybody knows I dearly love making Norvise ropes of peacock herl. It's my absolute favorite thing to do, but I'm not going to do it right this minute. Actually, none of these flies have that. No, one of them does. So we will do that, just not on this fly. So we want these flues on the feather to stick straight up. So I'm gonna start by, there we go, trimming that tip off, because that's usually the more fragile bit. And so we're gonna tie those in with the concave side towards the hook. Put just a little half hitch in there. Yeah, yes, please share away, Brad. For every 50 shares, just a reminder again, every 50 shares, Norvise is going to be giving away a neck gaiter and some stripping guards. So share away. All right, so now with this one piece tied in, you can use hackle pliers if you want. Just going to be taking touching wraps of this peacock purple. And by using that piece that's closer to the eye, it's a lot fuller. And so these fibers are actually standing straight up from the hook shank. If you can do it without breaking it, you're having a good night. I'm gonna go ahead and just tie that off. And then just throw a finish in right behind that bead and trim our thread. So there we have it. That's a bird of prey emerger pattern. I believe, according to the notes Brian had drawn up for this, it's a John Anderson pattern. You can tie it in whatever size and color to match your local insects. We also tie this in a larger size for our October caddis in the fall, which it's been pretty killer on those. So. All right, so let me see. Next up, sorry, got a mess going. Next up, we're going to be tying a rabbit fly. So this is what it looks like. So it's quite a bit of a hot mess. Let's see if we can back that up here. Is that still in focus? It's hard to tell. Actually, for this one, I will be, you can use the same jaws for all of these, but I do prefer the standard jaws, unless I'm tying on a curve shank, so I'm just going to switch those back out. So again, switching the jaws out is just a matter of a set screw in the vise and just taking it out, putting the other one in, and tightening it. It's super, super simple. So for this fly, we are using a Dairiki 730 size 10. And I've already crimped the barb on this one. Most of our rivers here are barbless. Our lakes aren't, but we fish them barbless anyways, because we don't generally keep a lot of fish. Every now and then, but generally we just catch and release. We just don't like eating them that much. So again, I'm using red A-Dot Semperfli Classic Wax Thread. Mainly I'm using red just because it shows up better on a video. And start by dressing my hook shank. Loosen my tension nut, and then just lay down a nice base of thread. This just helps give your material something to grip onto as you're tying your fly. Where do you get the Dairiki hooks? You don't anymore, Dave. They're no longer a thing. So we just have a few packs left that we're running through. I think Poppy out at the Red Shed still has some, so you can check with him. I'm sure if he has any left, which I am pretty sure he does, he'd be happy to sell them to you. And from here on out, we're actually going to be switching over to Daiichi hooks. So we just haven't got any of those in yet. And our classes that we're going to be teaching will be using Daiichis as well. So for the tail on this fly, we're going to be using rabbit fur. So I've just got a chunk of rabbit here. It's kind of just a natural blah looking, some light, some dark. You want to make sure it has guard hairs in it. That's a lot of the bugginess to this pattern is going to be those guard hairs. So I've trimmed out a little clump of it. I'm going to go ahead and pull out not all of that under fur. This is going to be a fly that we fish subsurface. We tend to fish it in the lakes here. I don't know that we've tried it in the rivers yet, but we fish it quite a bit in our lakes and reservoirs here. And I've had really good luck with it. The pattern, honestly, I'm not sure where it originated at. Leroy Hyatt put an article in the Tribune a while ago about it, and he had just said that he had found it in a book. What book? I don't know. But we've been tying it and just having real good luck with it. So we're gonna go ahead and tie that tail in. And now remember, we just want this to be, it's gonna be a buggy fly. So fluff, that sort of thing, not a big deal. Just tie those butt sections down. The body of the fly is going to be, where did it go? So I've got, going to be using some bright green chartreuse, I don't know the exact color name, ice dove. So anything similar to that will work. I'm going to go ahead and throw a half hitch chain just to save our work and bring our thread bobbin over to our thread post. So. Because I have such good luck tying and dubbing on live videos, as we all know, I'm just going to put a dapple wax on my thread. Tim's probably cringing right now, but that's okay. So I'm going to take that dubbing and I'm just going to pick it out. Honestly, when you're dubbing, less is more. Less is more, especially when you're dubbing it the Norvise style. You want it loose. That way it's able to grab onto that thread. So I'm going to start by just doing that. I know I'm going to need some more. That's just not probably going to be enough. We're going to try to build a tapered body in. So I'm just going to add some more. I might be off camera now, so. We're just going to add a little bit more. We can always pluck some out if we have too much at the end. Now I've taken my bobbin off the thread post and I'm pinching the thread and I'm going to spin it, and that's just going to really tighten that dubbing up on the thread. So now we've got a nice dubbing rope. I'm going to take that back and just be careful around that back hook. and try to build a taper in. Not that the fish will care, but try to. And so we're only going to dub up to about the 1/3 in front, 2/3 in the back, because we're going to put a hair collar on. And then we're going to use peacock roll for the head of the fly. Sorry. What wax do I use for this? I'm just using BT's dubbing wax. It's made by Alan Gretchen Beatty down out of Boise. And it's their tacky. They have tacky and super tacky, I believe. So for the collar on this, we are going to, again, just be using some of this beautiful rabbit strip. If you look at the back of it, it looks like it came off of a garment of some kind. So yay for, using this old stuff up. So for the collar, again, we want to make sure we have some of those guard hairs in. So I'm going to cut this from a little bit where the hair is a little bit longer. And then we're just going to pull out some of that fluff. Not all of it, don't get rid of all of it. That's part of the fly. We're actually going to be tying these in with the tips forward, and then we'll push them back when we're done. Just a reminder, I don't know what we're up to for shares, but be sure to share this on your timeline on your personal page. For every 50 shares, Norvise is giving away a neck gaiter and stripping guards. And so we want this to kind of go all the way around the hook. So I'm actually going to start by spinning my thread a little bit so it jumps to the rear. If it spins on its own, that's fine, let it. But you may not be able to get it to spin all the way around the hook because it's rabbit hair. So in that case, we're just going to add another clump in. Go ahead, grab another clump out, pull some of that fibers out. Switch hands. The nice thing about the Norvise is you can lock it in 90-degree increments. So it makes tasks like this really easy to do. So I've just locked it in at a different increment. Again, I'm going to spin my thread counterclockwise, which will force it to jump more to the rear of the hook. There we go. You can kind of position those if you need to. Now at 85, so we need 15 more shares, everybody, to give out a second prize pack. So I know a bunch of people have already won the net gaiters and stripping guards, and sources say they're pretty dang cool. So if you haven't shared it already, go ahead and give us a quick share to your page. Let's get it up to 100 shares so that we can get another prize pack out to somebody. So right now I'm just going in and trimming those butt sections out. Now that I've done that, I'm going to take those hairs, and we're just going to pull them back, jump our thread around them, and we're just going to make a bit of a thread dam in front of them. We're trying to get them to just stay to the rear of the fly. Explain spinning the thread. Okay, so I will do that. I'll do that on the next fly. I'll do it on a bare hook shank before we do anything, since we're already almost done on this. Okay. So So we've got one thing left. Again, we're putting a peacock collar on. So you can make a rope, or you can just use a single piece like I did in the last one. I'm going to make a small rope out of it because it's just what I like to do. And Tim's probably giggling to himself about that. So it is just my favorite part of the Norvise. So I've got 3 pieces. We don't need much because we've literally got just a bit of space there. I'm going to trim the tips out. And to be honest, I probably crowded the head on this. This is literally the second time I've tied this fly. Brian usually ties them. So this is not one that I've done a whole lot with. I'm going to go ahead and throw a half hitch in real quick. Take my thread over. I'm only going to need a couple centimeters of rope. So I'm not going to take my thread all the way over. I'm just going to hold it here. Let me try to move the camera angle so you can see it. There we go. Yeah, so I am just holding the thread, and I'm actually using my finger, my middle finger here, as like my thread post. I'm going to just pull that peacock over, all of it. Just going to spin it, made it into a nice little dubbing rope. Now I can just put that on the head of the fly. And just tie that off. Oh, shout out from Casey. If you shared tonight's live and your Facebook page is private, please let Norvise know here in the comments. Because if you don't, then they're not able to see that you shared it because of your privacy settings. So just a heads up there. Thank you, Aunt Cindy. My Aunt Cindy is tuning in from the UP back in Michigan. So that's pretty cool. All right, so we're just gonna throw a whip finish on here real quick. So this is, I'll admit, not the prettiest fly ever, but the fish in our lakes and reservoirs sure seem to like it. But then again, they mostly like anything chartreuse, so it's just kind of a buggy pattern. The more you fish it, the buggier it looks, and it just is a fish catcher. So, all right, thank you everybody for sharing. Hey Terry, hopefully your hockey team did good. Okay, so the very last fly we're tying tonight is a real quick one. It's called the Heron fly. I imagine at some point they use heron in it, which definitely we're not doing nowadays. So this is what it looks like. Move the camera back over. Is that still showing up okay? I don't know if I lost focus or not. Let me check real quick. It's really washed out. I need to work on the lighting on this side of the room. It's terrible. It's okay to tie in, but the camera is just real washed out. Okay. So before we get started on that one, we'll scroll back up in the comments real quick. So Richard Christie asked about explaining spinning the thread. So before we even get started on the next fly, I'm just going to cover that real quick. For this fly, I'm just using the Firehole 811 size 6 again. Thank you everybody for sharing. You're awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and mount that in my vise. For those of you newer to Nor-vise, or those that are older and maybe just need a reminder, you want to try to have your hook shank right coming off the top of that, because that's going to allow it to spin in line. That's the center of the rotation. So do your best. If you're using a curved hook, it's a little bit trickier, but now hopefully this will show up with the thread. So I'm gonna just start by getting my thread attached. And now hopefully, let's see. So part of thread control is this. If you spin your bobbin when it's attached to your hook, if you spin your bobbin counterclockwise, when you take that wrap, see how it's naturally going to the rear of your hook. I don't know if that's visible real well or not. If you spin it clockwise, it goes forward. I don't know if you can see that or not. So by spinning it that counterclockwise, it actually just its natural tendency is to go back over top of the materials that you're tying down, as opposed to trying to go forward when the materials are behind it. So it just gives you a little bit of an advantage to get your thread where you want it to go, if that makes sense. We have enough materials we fight with, kind of. So if you can just, a real quick spin, and it just makes it naturally go towards the rear and makes it just that much easier to tie something in. So for this, we're just gonna lay down a good thread base, and then we're gonna take it about the midway point. These are barbless hooks, so I have not crimped the barb on it because it's already gone, which is nice. So for this, I'm going to be using, it's called the Wood Duck Heron pattern. We're using mallard flank, which works just as well. It's just quite a bit cheaper. So it's a good substitute. You can also use widgeon. Mo, the fella that we got the Mo dub from that I used earlier, is a big waterfowl hunter, goes to Alaska guiding for waterfowl. He gave us a ton of widgeon a few years ago, and we have enough widgeon to last us a lifetime. So we've used that on this pattern as well. You can also add flash if you want. It's just really versatile, but today we're using just some mallard flanks as a substitute. It is a nickel Lambro pattern from New Hampshire, according to Brian's notes that he has here. So you may need 2 to 3 feathers, depending. We're tying this on again, it's a 3X streamer hook. Thanks for sharing, Bob. So to prep our feather, we're just going to strip all this fuzz off the bottom of it, always. We're going to tie it in by the tip. So which can be kind of hard to find on these feathers. So we're just going to start preening those fibers back. And so we're going to tie it in there. And just cut in a nice little tying triangle. And then again, this fly, you can use whatever color thread you want. Normally, you would use something that matches it a bit. I know we like to use wood duck color or brown or tan. I'm using red tonight just because it's easy to see. I'm going to go in, bind that down. Again, depending on how long of a hook you're using, you may need 2 or 3 feathers. It's just depends on how much hook you have to cover. If you can find feathers that have a thinner, oh, see ya, Mark. Thanks for tuning in. If you can find ones that have a thinner stem, it's to your benefit, that's for sure. So I'm just preening these fibers back. You can use your scissors to run down and break those wires. if you want, or you can just preen them back. Okay. So for this, you can do the hand over hand method, or you can use your rotary feature. I've tightened my tension nut down quite a bit, so it gives me that ability to stop anywhere mid-turn to make sure that those feathers are all going to lay towards the rear of the hook. And now we're just taking wraps. They don't have to be touching wraps, but you do want them somewhat close together. And as you get to that thicker part of the stem, that is a great spot to just tie off and switch to another feather. You really want to avoid wrapping too much of that thick part of the stem in. If you have any kind of sticking out front there, just preen them back. For this fly, it's you definitely could use blue-eared pheasant, Dave, if I had some. I do have a little bit, but I'm not going to use it on a lake pattern like this that I'm going to get stuck on a stump at the bottom of the pond. But if you have any blue-eared pheasant that you're looking to get rid of and want to donate to the cause, by all means. I might even bring you some cookies for it. Okay, so feather number 2, we're going to prep it just the same way. We have tied these where we've added flash in here. You can add flash on the hook shank, you can add flash, crystal flash. It's really versatile. We have a lake that has tiger trout in it, and it's got a lot of golden shiners. So we have put some kind of gold and orangish colored flash in with good luck. Travis, what are my favorite tying scissors? So right now I am using these new scissors from Anadromous Fly Co. And so far I'm loving them. And they really match my purple Norvise too. This pair in particular doesn't look too hot with the red, but they match my purple Norvise really good. But so far I'm really digging them. They cut really well. They even cut nano silk, not that I'd probably use them on nano silk all the time, but they've got a bunch of different ones to choose from, curved, straight, even some clamp-like ones. So it would take a lot of cookies. Well, I can make a lot of cookies. All right, so I'm just gonna advance that forward. So we're going to wrap this feather up and then put, the only other thing to put on it is just the collar, which is just brown hen hackle. Hey Todd, how's it going? It is important that all of your tying tools match. It's really not even a little bit, but it's kind of fun though when they do. Maybe that's the girl in me, I don't know. All right, so I'm just preening those fibers back. Anyway, so far I'm really impressed with the new scissors from Anadromous Fly Co. The price is really good, and they seem to be very well made. They're a good weight. They're probably, I'd say, they don't feel quite as heavy as Dr. Slick scissors, but they're not real lightweight like some of the lower end ones that you get from places. So they've got a good feel to them. We'll go with that. And they're very sharp. Like I posted a video the other day on our page. It's Hackles and Hurl on Facebook and Instagram, and it's a video of them cutting nano silk without even having any tension on the thread. So that was pretty impressive, and it was 6/0 nano, so it was pretty stout nano thread. Casey had fly fishing and fashion. You can mark it. Fly tying and fashion. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I think I'll pass on that too. All right, so I'm just using a toothbrush to kind of brush these fibers back. I've jammed my thumb too many times into these hooks to want to do it by hand. So the very last bit of it is just a brown feather off a hen. So nothing fancy. Just gonna prep that, pull those fibers back, get all the fuzz out. Again, we're gonna tie it in by the tip. Just make a nice little tie-in point for it. Wind that down. And then bring those fibers back. So we're going to be finishing up here. This is the last fly, so if you haven't shared already, go ahead and give it a share. I don't know where we're sitting, but we got to be getting close to a second prize pack if we haven't already. And now I've lost my amplifiers. There we go. So I'm going to just throw a half hitch in here. And I still have my tension pretty tight. That just allows me to very slowly rotate this so I can make sure I'm preening those fibers back as we go. Oh, thank you, Colin. I appreciate that. All right, so I've got that. We're just going to tie that off. And then you can just trim that butt section out. And there we have it. I'm just going to put a head on this. And get it a lip finish. You can also use head cement if you want. Whatever you choose to use to finish your flies. So, got that. Yes, these hackle pliers are available at the Red Shed, which I also need to get another pair of them because a pair landed in my trash can and I threw them away on accident. So these are the hackle pliers. Definitely a good set to have. All right, so there we've got that. So you know, if you're not talking and trying to read comments and everything, it's a really quick tie. So let me switch cameras real quick. Bear with me. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, that's back to full screen. So we're at 104 shares. Awesome. So we've got 2 prize packs going out this week. Thank you everybody for sharing, and thank you for tuning in. This will be up on the YouTube channel first part of the week. So if you missed part of it or want to go back and watch any of it, check it out. And while you're on the YouTube channel, be sure to click the subscribe button. And then there's also, thanks Mike, there's also a button you can click. It looks like a little bell. And if you click that, you'll get notifications when new content is put up. So they put the live up every week, and then they also add new patterns from Merry Christmas, Aunt Cindy. Thanks for watching. Tell the family I said hi. So if you click that bell, it'll give you notifications anytime new content is updated, which is Mondays and then Thursdays usually with just separate fly patterns. So be sure to head over there, subscribe, notifications, you'll be all set to go. Next week, I believe Tim will be tying fly patterns for pickerel, which is kind of cool. Hopefully I get to go back east sometime and fish for those. I haven't yet, but hopefully that'll happen eventually. So I'm excited to see Tim's tie next weekend. And I think that's all I have for you. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and I hope everybody had a good holiday. Hey, yeah, Philip, you do recognize those scissors. They're great. Thank you. So Philip, I ordered a couple pair of scissors from Philip, and then he's the guy that's running Anatramous Fly Co. And so I ordered a couple, and then he threw in a few for me to try as well. So that sure was nice of him. And then he also sent some up to my favorite little gal up in Canada, Tim and Ren. So thank you, Phil, for being so generous. We appreciate it. So again, does anybody have any questions, comments? Hopefully it wasn't too bad. Again, Brian was planning on tying tonight. He just had some stuff going on with his vision, so hopefully it'll work itself out. There's just no way he was going to be able to see well enough to tie tonight. So, all right. I don't see any questions coming in. I will go back through the comments afterwards and answer any questions that I may have missed, which I'm sure I missed some of them. But with that, I will talk to y'all later. Have a good night.